are you guys ready to get started? And we will
Sure.
find ways to glean this information and share it with everyone and anyone at RE/MAX Executive and anyone we think who could benefit from the wealth of knowledge that Lizette Conover, Patrick Nooney, and Jonathan Dean are going to bestow on us today. They were all polite and kind enough to accept the invitation when I put it out there. And I think all of us really think that we don't have the greatest goal setting and we're not the best at this or that. But when I look back and the questions that we're going to talk about today, I think these three agents, team leaders, family members of ours at RE/MAX Executive all have some really valuable insights that they can share, and they all have their own path and their own focus. And the idea behind our agent panel for goal setting was not to sit here and talk to you, but talk with you. So I'm going to be asking questions, and my role is just to ask questions. And if anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question as we're moving through this, as long as Jonathan, Patrick, and Lizette don't mind, I don't mind. And it's really just to hear what's going on, how we can help each other, and how we can help grow and develop our businesses. So to kick it off, I will let you know I have shared questions and put information out there just to let everyone know what we're looking at. So Jonathan, you're up first.
Woo!
And
go, Jonathan, go.
Question number one, what skills or knowledge have made you better in your business? Is there something that is on your to-do list that really makes you even better?
Something that's on my to-do. So I know that what has helped me have any success has been speed. I have always followed, at least with online leads, that I had to call them within 30 seconds. And that's what's really, really helped me have a lot of success with them. And then beyond that, when I got on the phone, was just being casual. I have seen a lot of people that are really formal or have scripts that they're reading off, and it sounds too scripted, whether or not that's through text or a phone call. So I try to be extremely casual in a text message or in a phone call so that it's not, they don't feel like it's overly business. And I hope always that kind of tees off that it's going to be a reasonably casual and fun experience.
Very cool. So speed to lead and being casual.
Yes.
Very cool.
Especially speed to lead.
And Patrick, I know with the Premier team, you guys have had a lot of success over the years, and I asked you the same question. What skills or knowledge have made you better over the years in your business, and what's something that you have to have on your to-do list?
You know, I look at it but I always am going to look at it more from a team point of view and what we're trying to teach, them. And, it's just kind of like Jonathan said, you get too formal in here and then it just really turns people off. Even you can be too formal dressed, you can act too formal. So I always tell, there's 100 ways to do real estate. Everybody on this here does it differently than I do, and differently than Jonathan, and differently than Christy Kyle and whoever. You've just got to, it's kind of the laws of attraction. You just got to be yourself, and you don't want to just chase and everything. You want to attract people to you. And if you're yourself, you learn from others. You learn best practices. You learn to do this. You learn how to, reach out to people very quickly. You learn all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, every one of you are going to do it a little different than I do. You know what I mean? But you've got to be yourself. If you're trying to be somebody you're not, if you're not, the guy or girl that's, so buttoned up at all times, don't act that way, because believe it or not, they can tell. Just be yourself. They don't really care. It's not about you anyway. It's about them. And if they know that you have their best interest in heart, and their families and their dog and the whole, their parents or anything like that, they could really care less how buttoned up you are and whatever. But if you try to be somebody you're not, they can see right through it, even though you don't think they can. So I think Jonathan kind of hit it. Just be yourself. Jonathan's casual. I'm kind of casual too. And people never really, and I hate to say it, there's many times in the summer I've shown houses in flip-flops and shorts, and I haven't bothered one person out there. You know what I mean? So, but then you might have a buttoned-up client that you gear yourself more to them, so you can feel your way through it. So
That's definitely true. And I like that you said the law of attraction and you try to attract like times. It's very cool.
So easier to attract than chase all the time, you know.
Yes. Attracting is a lot easier than chasing. Lizette, thank you for joining us today. And what skills or knowledge have made you better in the business? And is there something on your to-do list that set you apart?
I will piggyback on what both Jonathan and Patrick have said, and that is that authenticity is really important. And real estate's a contact sport, right? So the more we network and the more we come into contact with other people, the more opportunities that we have to transact business with them. And so, I've always thought about the saying that people don't know, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, do the things that you're passionate about and the business will follow you. So for me, I haven't bought leads in, I don't know how many years. Like, I paid for those stupid Zillow leads for years and years. And I know that for some people, that's part of their business and they do very well with that. So I don't mean to diminish that for anybody who's doing it, but I just started doing business by referral exclusively. And that's what worked best for me personally. And so, I'm passionate about tennis. I play a lot of tennis. I've sold houses to and for my tennis pros, the other girls on my team. And that's, one place. I lead a couple small group in my home on Wednesday nights. And, there are a lot of referrals that come out of that. So, just things that I'm passionate about, the things that I like to do that tends to generate a lot of business and a lot of referrals for me. And then the second thing would be success leaves clues. And what I mean by that is that, like, when I look at Jonathan Dean, when I look at Patrick Nooney, and I see that they're both really successful, I'm going to ask them a lot of questions. I'm going to try to get up with them and, like, what are you doing? What makes you successful? Because that's going to be really helpful for me. And I have taken away, a lot of what I call like little golden nuggets from agents through the years, what they're doing that makes them successful.
That is great. I love what you're doing. Everyone has a different plan, a different method that works for them. And Lizette, that referral piece, it goes a long way. And the caring focus, being passionate about what you're doing and believing in it, that's key. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to mix it up a little bit and I'm going to move back to Patrick before I get back to Jonathan. And Patrick, we talked a little bit about your daily ritual the other day. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do day in and day out to be successful? You have a ritual and I really liked it.
Well, it's not all about real estate, you know what I mean? So it's, what I do is I usually get up about 5:30 and I have to admit, the first thing I do was look at my emails and texts just to make sure I haven't missed anything. And it really relaxes me. It seems kind of crazy to dive into it right at first. But then once I go through it and I know everything's good and the world's still spinning around, then I can start relaxing and doing the other things that I enjoy doing in the morning. So I have a kind of a Bible study with two friends that I grew up with. So I know them since I was 13. We'll read, or listen to Audible. We'll pick a book for the month and we'll read a chapter about every 3 days. 3 times a week, we will talk about that chapter and dig a little deeper what it really means. And it's weird how your friendship really opens up when everybody's guard is down. And then you start, even though I've known them since I was 13, the things when you start getting into that, it's like anything in life, when you start putting the barriers down, you really learn more about them than you ever did, even though you've known them since they were 13. So we do that. I do that for about 30 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week. And it, really helps me but it helps me business wise, but it helps me kind of know what's important in life and what's not. So, real estate is very important, but there's a lot of things that are, I look for the same importance as that or more important. So then I'm kind of old school. Read the Charlotte Observer online every day. And of course, I read the sports and see what's going on with the, Panthers, this, that, but I also get a lot of information that gears me up and know what people I have when people are talking about Charlotte and companies moving here and new things that's happening. It gives me enough information to know a little about a lot of different things, And what I'm trying to do the first time, and Lizette, is the more people you talk to, if you're at a bar, or you're at a restaurant, wherever you're at, the more conversations you can have, the more opportunities. And if you know a little bit about a lot and all of a sudden there's a common interest instead of, I always say, a house really doesn't have much to do with real estate. It's really a relationship. I mean, there's millions of 4 bedrooms or 3 baths. I mean, it's just a house. It's just sticks and bricks. But if you know a little bit and they bring up something, you go, well, yeah, I heard about that, or I knew your company, I read about your company moving to town or whatever. And I've always been a kind of a newspaper geek anyway, but I kind of start with that, you know what I mean? And I spend time, maybe 45 minutes a day reading that and learning a lot more about business stuff and whatever. Just I go through the whole paper. And I just try to do this about the same thing every day. I try to get up about the same time. I try to do this, I go get coffee for my wife every morning and bring it up to bed and do my routine 2 or 3 times a day. And it's just the way we start a day. And I kind of, it kind of works, but it's, I think it's good for her, but it's good for me too. But I do enjoy the real estate part, but not just digging into real estate and not really thinking about anything else but deals. You know what I mean? So.
That is great. It's a good way to start the morning and to have that ritual and that process that you're going to go through. It really helps to get your day going. I know I found for myself personally, it is hard.
And one other thing, and somebody said this, I've got to know when I go to bed what my day's going to be a little bit. And I do a simple daily sheet. You see, this one's already for Thursday. If I have a journal or something, I have it closed, I don't really ever open it. But this daily sheet, I just threw away Wednesday starting on Thursday. And then that way I have it with me all day. It's pretty rudimentary, but that's kind of the way I am on that. But that way, when I go to sleep at night, I do know, you see at 7:30 tomorrow morning, I have Bob and Jim. Those are my 2 buddies, So it really helps me relax more at night. Then when I first get up, I see what I need to do. And if I don't finish it on this list, I'll start Friday tomorrow. So it kind of helps me. That helps me as well.
That is nice. When you said Bob and Jim, all I could think of is a Bob and Jim morning show, which is
it's kind of what it is, It can get interesting.
Thank you. Well, Jonathan, we're going to switch gears a little bit and go back to, if you went back 5 years, what would you tell yourself relative to your goals today? And what would you do more of? And what would you say didn't help you?
So it's hard because some stuff that helped me also didn't help me. So it's always been really helpful for me to be extremely available for my clients for when they want to look, whenever that is. But it also wasn't helpful to the family life because I was so extremely flexible to what they were looking for and when they want to do things that I missed a lot of things. I canceled vacations because certain clients said they were coming into town that didn't show up or didn't end up buying or selling. And that was one thing I wish I had thought more about. So I know that I need to be flexible, but I also need to have boundaries regarding my time and still being flexible to what they want, but it's okay if I cannot always fit their schedule. I can't tell them that I'm not going because I'm going to go and build a fort in the woods with a couple of my kids, but I can tell them I have a previous appointment that I cannot break or am not able to move. And that's enough that people are usually pretty fine with it because they like knowing that we're busy. And I wish I had started that when I first started. And then the next thing is one of my continued goals that I think I'm finally getting better at is follow-up. When I initially started, it was just me on my team and I was claiming a lot of leads. I had like 150 leads a month and I never did any follow-up. If I didn't get you on the first call, you're gone. unless for some reason you picked up something from the drip campaign that I had running. And I still got a lot of business off of it, but there were so many deals that I missed because I wasn't doing any follow-up. So I wish that I knew what I know now regarding how well the follow-up can work. And even if I did know, I just didn't do it. But I wish I wouldn't have been so naive to the fact of how helpful it is. And I had kept up with it, because I would have done a crap load more business if I had actually kept up with people that had said, I want to wait, or I need to pause, or whichever, or if they didn't answer the phone that first time. So I think the big thing would be doing a better job with follow-up, which I think I'm finally getting a little better at.
You are so right. When it comes to follow-up, if you don't make those extended phone calls and continue out, if you're buying leads, you're leaving money on the table. And that whole appointments for your family, I learned that just like you did as well. I started setting appointments. I didn't say I was going to watch my daughter practice gymnastics or practice field hockey. Hey, I have an appointment at 5 o'clock. I can do it at 7, but I'm sorry, 5 o'clock's not going to work today.
Yeah,
And
I know.
doing that's hard.
I have lots of standing appointments that I try and keep every week with my family, whether or not it's taking my daughter to ballet on Tuesdays or something else. I mean, it's funny. My daughter, I take her every Tuesday to ballet at 4 o'clock, and she actually knows. Jeff Goodall is one of the people on my team, and she actually tells me is usually he would call during that time, just coincidentally while I was on the drive there.
Mm-hmm.
So she, one day the other week, she said, oh, well, he was calling on my Bluetooth, and I picked it up, and she's like, Jeff Goodall, he usually calls on Tuesday. He usually calls on Tuesday. So they're really perceptive, and they see those things. So it's cool that they do, but I like that I have the ability to have the flexibility now, but it took so much time to get there. And I hate that it did, because I know I missed a lot of things, but that's probably why I just kept on pumping out babies, so that I could enjoy the baby years with new babies, and I'd get over the fact that I didn't get it with the other ones.
And I didn't intentionally do this, but when I brought my daughter to all of the different activities that I brought her to, I would talk to other parents, and inevitably by the end of the year, I'd have 2 or 3 sales just out of talking with dance moms or cheer moms or field hockey parents.
Yeah.
And that conversation, they start to know, like, and trust you if you're not pushing a sale on them.
Hey, I'll be honest. I don't think I've ever gotten a sale out of anything ballet related, because I'm usually the only guy there. So and as much as I used to be really chatty with tons of ladies, I definitely am not anymore. So I spend a lot of time catching up. Like Patrick said, it helps him to reduce stress if he catches up with those emails right away when he wakes up. It's kind of the same. I know that if I have that big list, I want to stay on top of it. So I usually take that time to either watch her do it, or I'm catching up on things.
Nice. Well, Lizette, looking back over the last 5 years, if you went back, what would you tell that self relative to your goals today? And what would you do more of or less of if you had it to do again over the last 5 years?
That's a great question. I have a few thoughts. So the first thing is I would have hired a coach a lot sooner than I did. And, I've been in real estate for a long time. It's been like 30 years. And I just never, I always thought about it, and I thought, oh, it's too expensive. I don't want to afford it. Not that I can't afford it. I don't want to afford it. I'm doing just fine, the way I am, with what I'm doing. Probably about, 6 or 7 years ago, I broke down and just did it. And that's made it a big difference, because I have somebody who is cheering me on, who is answering critical questions, who's helping me to develop my business plan each year, helping me to develop my goals each year. And, it's not cheap, but it's worth it. And then along with that, I also have a mastermind group that I'm a part of, and it meets once a month. And that group has been really helpful too, because that's where we kind of flesh out the ideas, like what's working for you, what's not working for you. And that's been really good. So I wish I had done both of those things a lot sooner. And then the last thought is, real estate, I know it's a long game, but I tend to go for like the low hanging fruit. And so, just knowing what I know now, I wish I had, done more, farming of my neighborhood, or just things that, you don't get immediate results, but eventually you do. Right. So.
Can I say
That
something
is-
else? I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead, Jonathan.
So I think, with what Lizette just said, the follow-up part of it is, I had some video blog I was listening to the other day, and it was some real estate guy who was saying that it didn't matter how long it took, he was going to follow up with people until they died. And I have, and my team will attest to this, I've really adopted that heavily recently, that no matter what, whether or not they're buying right now or in 5 years, I want them to be somebody that we stay in touch with so that we can get that transaction, because eventually they will. It's just a matter if it's with us. So I think keeping the low hanging fruit is fantastic, like Lizette said, but that long game is how you like really build that momentum and have those big months where you get a lot of deals, when you have people that finally come to fruition that you've been working for a year or 5 years or whatever.
Yep. And that's where the CRM is really valuable. That has also been a tremendous tool for me, is just really keeping that up to date, keeping it accurate, and using it and looking at it regularly to see who am I keeping in touch with, who needs a touch, and, basically keeping in touch with people, sending them gifts and cards and phone calls.
Definitely true. Thank you guys both for that. I'm going to roll back over to Patrick. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what do you think most agents should do that they're not doing today?
Well, I grew up and I think the word accountability was like a negative, always like teenager, you could really get into real estate because you don't really want to be accountable to anybody except yourself. And I think that it took me a long time to realize accountability is a very positive word. I mean, Jonathan talking, about his children. If you don't hold them accountable and if you don't teach them something, then you're not really ever teaching them, and they don't respect you. You know what I mean? So I think accountability, what the agents don't do is hold themselves accountable. And what agents on teams and what independent agents and whatever is that there's just not accountability. And so the persistence isn't there, the accountability and the time blocking. And it depends what type of agent, but you need to know what you're doing like between 9:30 and 11, and what you're doing between 1 and 3. And it can change and all that, or whatever your hours are. But accountability is the main thing, is trying to, because everybody goes, oh, I just love selling homes when they get in the industry. How many times have we heard that? Or I like being in control of my own schedule. That's kind of not true in real estate, probably less than a lot of other professions. We could say we are busy for that hour, but then again, like Lizette said, but I can show you, or Tiffany said, but I can show you that home at 7 p.m. So really our schedules are pretty more intense than the average people I know. I work, I help, and then you're on vacation and they see you working and doing all the stuff we do on vacation. They kind of think we're nuts, So I shared something with Haley. Haley, can you put up what I sent you? The main thing is just a shout. I'll keep this quick. And Lizette was just like me, coaching. We didn't hire a coach till 3 years ago. It totally changed everything for the team and for us. It's almost like you see it your way, but a coach is seeing it from above the trees, and they help a lot of different people in a lot of different places. So the way you're doing it is just the way that's in your eyes, but they're seeing it from a whole different viewpoint. So, it probably doesn't matter which coaching you do, but, look into coaching. But this is something I try to now do, and we try to get our agents to do. Instead of grading themselves on how many homes they have under contract or anything like that, grade yourselves on your daily activities. And then if you do the daily activities, then the sales come and the listings come. So you see this one, we try to get 61 points. How many emails you sent, how many calls you made, how many handwritten notes, how many listing appointments, face-to-face, open houses, one more thing, one more time, role play, and you get points for doing this every day. And it is amazing. The people who get the most points and doing these daily activities sell the most houses. And it's accountability. Even if a team's not looking over you and going through this with you, just to have something like this and holding yourself accountable, and you're trying to get, let's say 61 points, you're trying to get near 300 points a week. And then at the end of the week, see how many points that you've gotten during that week. And it's amazing if you do these activities, how many homes you'll sell. It's just natural and stuff. And again, I can share this with anybody who wants it. And all these other things is just your kind of your daily activity. But the main thing is trying to get as many points as you can and hold yourself accountable to getting the points. The sales come. If you do this stuff, the rest of it, that's the only thing you really have to worry about. If you do this, you'll be successful. Everybody be successful who does this. And then every month, look over your past 4 weeks and see if you've gotten better and your points have gone up, because you're not going to start off with 61 points. But I think this is the main thing for agents and existing agents. Me, I've been in there 17 years and I just started this 2 years ago, but is hold yourself accountable.
That's a great tool to utilize, and it breaks it down and makes it somewhat fun.
It's kind of fun.
So, yeah. And it can be a little bit competitive.
And you're disappointed in yourself if you got 12 points. You know what I mean? And so you're kind of, it is kind of fun, but you want to make sure that you're getting as many points per day, and anybody on your team and whatever. And you don't chastise them if they're not. You just try to help them get better to get more points. And if they get more points, they get more sales.
And that makes a lot of sense. It's a nice way to break it down. Thank you. Jonathan, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think most agents should do that they're not doing today?
I mean, Patrick's obviously 100% correct. The accountability is a big thing, and whether or not it's of ourselves or on our teams or whichever, it's very hard to do. It's not hard, but it's really, I guess it is. It's really challenging to actually follow through and do the things that you say you're going to do and the things that you say you want to do. I have a lot of lofty goals for myself and my team, and nobody else is going to do them but me. So I have to hold myself accountable, or, like Lizette said, having a coach is extremely helpful. I don't personally have a coach, so don't judge me on that. But nonetheless, I do have friends that I have kind of employed a little bit to check on me on things, because I do agree having the accountability is important. As much as I want to say that I'm self-disciplined enough to be accountable for it, I know that I make mistakes, and it works a lot better when somebody yells at me for not doing what I said I'm going to do, or asks me about it and I feel embarrassed because I piddled around and didn't get it done. So I think the accountability is super important. And then beyond that, it's like a lot of follow-up. So having that type of check sheet where you can know what you're doing and you're accomplishing those things and actually hit it is really good. I heard some agents said the other day, they were like, if I told you that if you made 100 calls that you would get a listing, would you make 100 calls? Now there's no guarantees in this, but if I was told by somebody and I kind of had that thought and I knew my metrics, and I knew that if I had made that many phone calls, I'd get a listing, I'll be damned if I wouldn't make 100 calls a day to try and get it done. So again, that goes to the accountability and the follow-up. I think that's what would really, really help.
That is definitely true. And that accountability and holding your mindset, the 100 calls for one lead. One of the stories I've always told agents when they've come in and they're looking to do things is there's a father who had Boy Scout who was selling Boy Scout popcorn, and they went to sit out in front of a grocery store to sell the popcorn. And he didn't want his son to feel really bad when all the no's started rolling in from people walking by. And so what he did was said, son, you know what, we're looking for 5 yeses today. we're probably going to see 100 people, but we only want to have 5 yeses. And by the end of the day, his son was so upset because he'd only gotten 5 no's and he had gotten like 70 or 80 yeses. And if we started looking at that mentality different, kind of like you did with the 100 to 1, I think a lot of us would feel a lot better about doing things that put us outside of our comfort zone, but just kind of rethinking it a little bit and looking at the positives as opposed to the negatives of talking to people that might not buy, because long term, they're going to remember who you were and your name. So. Lizette, I'm going to switch up the questions a little bit, and I'm going to ask you about if you have an admin or a transaction coordinator, at what point did you decide to hire one? As people are looking at their budgets rolling into 2022, they're probably thinking, do I need an admin or a transaction coordinator? And when you made that decision, did you make it at the right time, or do you feel like you should have done it sooner? Tell us a little bit about your experience.
My experience is unique, and it's going to be different than a lot of people's because I am, my husband and I are a husband and wife team, and it didn't start out that way. I was a single agent, and I think when I hit probably around 30 transactions a year, it's when my stress level just was really high, and I just felt like I need help. And I convinced Darren, my husband, to join me in the business, and he did. And so I was really hesitant to do that for a long time because I didn't want to give up control of what I was doing. But the reality is that he is so good at administrative work, and he's one of those like guys that like geeks out on paperwork. He loves it. He's so naturally organized and detailed, and so it was a really good fit. And it actually like just my stress went from here to here, and I could focus on selling. And so I think that anybody that is at like 30, I think 30 is maybe the threshold that it was for me. And so, yeah, and it makes a big difference, and doing what you're good at is, the best use of your time. And also, the activities that are actually generating business is the best use of your time. So I would say anybody who hasn't done that, hired a closing coordinator or a transaction coordinator, just do it. Just let it go. And you'll be surprised how much easier it is than you think it's going to be.
It's a great answer. And Patrick, tell us about your experience with admins and transaction coordinators and what your thoughts were around that.
Well, I just think we're all blessed to do different things. And if you stay in your lane and do what you're good at, like selling, like I think I am, or whatever I'm good at and whatever everybody else on this thing, and you let somebody else do the other stuff, you're going to be more efficient. I mean, no business is ran by one person doing 20 jobs. You know what I mean? But get people who are better than you at those positions. I mean, I'm not really good at, I did closing. I mean, I did my own closings for the first 6 months. After that, I had a transaction coordinator. They do a better job. I'm writing it on the back of a folder, back in the day. They just did a lot better job, and I looked a lot more professional. That I was using somebody, and I say my transaction coordinator is going to be in touch with you. And then I'm out there trying to rustle the leaves to get more deals while they're doing the other stuff. And you know what's going on. You're copied on every email. You see what's going on. If they need you, they interject you in there. So yeah, do that. I mean, I've always believed pay people hundreds to make thousands. The transaction coordinator is probably, to me, the hardest job in all of real estate, so. Yeah, I'm happy to share that every deal I write with a closing coordinator. As far as a admin, again, is we're getting the right person. Courtney Scott, who some of you guys know, we hired her before we hired the first agent. And I was telling Tiffany this the other day. We were starting the team, and we were interviewing her, and she goes, well, what's the position? And this was 16 years ago. And we said, well, you're going to be I mean, now her title is different, but you're going to be the, you know, kind of team captain or whatever I can't even remember the term we used when we hired her. And she's like, well, who's the team? And we're like, we don't have them yet. So we wanted her in place before we built the team instead of get the team in place before we hired the position. It's kind of the way we did it. Don't know if it's right or wrong, but 16 years later, she's still here. She's very efficient. Everybody in that, she's kind of the team mom. She helps everything, but it worked for us doing it up front because we wanted to grow. And if you're trying to do everything yourself, you're never going to grow. You can't scale if you're doing every job yourself. So sometimes people say they don't want to relinquish the control, but once you relinquish it, most people are going to, if you hire the right person, they're going to do it better than you anyway, and they're going to make you look good, and then you can stay in your lane and create more business or hire more agents or whatever your goal is. But no, I'm big for having people help me be more successful. And I always tell them, just make me look good. You want people to make you look good. So, and I think if you do everything yourself and, you try to go out of town for vacation with your family, but you got 3 closings that you're trying to figure out, it's kind of empowering to know if you go out of town or something that somebody's going to step in and the closing coordinator will go to your closing or whatever. I'm a big fan.
I agree. And we have some of the best closing coordinators here. Kim Black and Jasmine has stepped into that role from our Valentine office. And that's what she previously did before she came to us. So she is fabulous at it and will be fabulous at it.
Yeah, they help you a lot.
Definitely they do. So Jonathan, I'm going to ask you a little bit different of a question, but I'm going to actually, something just hit my mind that I want to share before we move on. With what Patrick said about delegating, oftentimes coaches will say every quarter, look at what's on your plate and figure out, do you love it? Are you good at it? And if you're not, if you moved it off to someone else, could you make more money? I love that. Pay someone hundreds to make thousands. That really resonates with me. And I think it resonated with Jonathan if I saw that comment correctly in the chat. So thank you for that nugget of information, Patrick.
Mhm.
So Jonathan, we're going to continue on and talk a little bit about dollars and cents. And do you look at ROI for expenses, which is return on income, if you're not sure what ROI is? Tell me a little bit about how you decide that, because there's so many shiny objects in our business.
Yeah. So I do. I won't say that I look at it initially when I jump on something because I don't know what it's going to return. But now, because I've been doing what I have for a little while, I do have an idea that most of the things that I'm doing, I want them to have a 4-to-1 return. So with the leads that I've been purchasing, they return anywhere from 4 to 600 or 700 times what I pay for them. And I've always been pleased with that amount. And I've thought that that's been a good enough number. And, there have been a lot of shiny objects that have come along and a lot of different lead companies that have called offering new services and things. We get probably, I think everyone knows, we get as many calls from different lead companies as we do finding out about the fact that we can get health insurance at half price right now during open enrollment. So we're all getting those text messages right now. So
yes, how many texts have you gotten today?
I have 3 right now that I just deleted. So it's there are so many shiny objects, and I just picked up a new platform last week and that I'm excited about, but I don't know if it'll work yet. But I do know that within the first 3 to 6 months, if I don't see a certain return, leaning more towards that 4-to-1, that it likely doesn't make sense unless I see that there is the prospect of it getting better. So that's normally what I look at.
That is so true. For many years, I didn't look at the ROI as close as I probably should have. And if you're ever chasing a squirrel and you're wondering what it's like, or if it makes sense, you could probably call me, because I've probably been there and done that, because I think we all, between Lizette, Jonathan, myself, and everyone on this call, have chased a lot of squirrels in our lifetime, and not all of them are the same. And if you're not looking at your ROI and your bottom line as to how much money is it making you versus what you're paying out, you're doing yourself a disservice. I actually every month look at my numbers. I have QuickBooks and I tie it directly to an expense so that I can track my ROI. Because if I don't, I'll be spending money on things that I never should have spent money on. So if you're looking at your budget right now, definitely be paying attention to what you're spending money on and if it's making you money. If it's not, don't keep waiting for it to make you money because it's probably not going to.
Should I think about that like that with my kids too?
Maybe not.
Because I'm waiting.
I think you got a long time to wait for that one.
Yeah, I'm waiting on it.
Oh, so Lizette, have you ever struggled to meet a goal that you set for yourself and how did you handle it? Or have you ever thought about putting together a goal and you just weren't sure that you wanted to put it out there for the next year and you wish you had it?
Yeah, I struggle to meet my goals every year. I try to set them higher than what seems reasonable. I don't set the big, hairy, audacious goals that some people, talk about. But I try to stay away from what I think I can do and go for what I think I can't do and see if I can hit it. And in my thinking, so part of my issue has been that goal setting and organization, that just doesn't come naturally to me. It is something that I've had to learn through the years. And so the thing that I also struggle with is perfectionism. And so I've had to learn to be happy with progress over perfection. And just knowing that I have a goal and that I'm reaching for it, I'm going for it. And even if I hit, 80% of what I thought was an unattainable goal, that's pretty good. And I don't know, that might sound really messed up to like other people who are like, no, I go for it. I hit it. I get, better than my goals. I don't know. It's just hasn't been the way I've approached it. And I remember years ago being in a RE/MAX session at a convention. It's like a really long time ago. Les Brown was the speaker, and he has a great saying. He says, shoot for the moon. When you shoot for the moon, if you miss, you land in the stars. And, and I've been okay with that. And so I've been goal setting since 1996. And the funny thing is that when you asked me, to be on this panel. And at first I was resistant. I'm like, no, I'm not the right person for that. And then I just thought about it and I thought, well, I have been seriously writing goals since 1996. This is my goals. I don't even know if you can see that, but
I can see them.
Highlighted the things that, the goals that I did reach. And then there were like some that I didn't, but it's just, I think that a goal without like writing it down, without a plan of how you're actually going to attain your goal is just a dream. So, part of my journey has been learning how to write them down. And I think one of the most meaningful things that I've actually only learned recently, I used to write things down that I thought were just the right answer, like, oh, well, this is what my mission statement should say. This is what my vision should be because I'm a realtor, I sell real estate, to like changing that up and saying, I'm going to write something that really connects with me, with what, the legacy that I want to leave, the things that I'm passionate about. And all of a sudden, because I'm not all that money oriented, like, it's just like, I'm just not that person that's chasing the dollar. Like I have, of course, I like it as much as and need it as much as anybody else. But there were other things, and I couldn't figure out like why sometimes my goals were just not motivating to me. And when I learned to change my goals into like, well, it's not about the money, but what about the experiences that you want to achieve, or the things that you want to do, or the things that you want, for your family, that really was very helpful. For me, that was kind of a game changer.
It makes a huge difference. And I think one of the things you're getting back to is what is your why? And that helps you determine what your goals are and what direction you want to go. I'm glad you brought up the Les Brown comment that you had mentioned to me and his quote, because that's what I was actually looking back for in my notes. I was like, I know she said something about Les Brown that I thought was really cool. So I'm glad you shared that, because oftentimes I think we have a fear of making our goals too high or beyond where we want to go. And so we shoot for something lower so that we don't upset ourselves or not hit a goal. But once you shoot for that high goal and you shoot for the moon, getting into the stars feels incredible. And if you're not shooting for the stars and shooting for the moon and getting to the stars, you're missing out. So think about setting those goals and figuring out what your why is so that you can have those experiences. And I think everybody on the call today, and I didn't necessarily plan this because we were looking at individual agents and team agents, has a team of some sort. The husband-wife team, I applaud Lizette, because I don't think my husband and I could ever work together on a real estate team. And that is so incredible. I love that she does that. And I love that her husband is the one who's focused on the details and all of the tasks, because my husband's very detail oriented as well. He calls me the salt and shaker girl, that I leave stuff laying around everywhere at our house, and he's the one who wants it all picked up. So I can't imagine what the real estate routine would look like, but you guys have made it look incredible and so successful. So we've got Lizette's team here, and we've got Jonathan's team, and we've got the Premier team. So one of the questions I wanted to ask, and I'll get back over to Jonathan before I then go to Patrick on this question. What do you think is most important if you're starting to plan for a team? Because we might have some individual agents on the call that are thinking, maybe I want to create a team, or what goes into it. What do you think is most important when you're planning for a team? And Jonathan, I'll let you start, and then Patrick, I'll let you chime in.
I feel like you should let the voice of experience go first, but that's fine nonetheless. I can jumble my way through. So kind of like Lizette said when she talked about, it's the same words but a little bit different, but basically done is better than perfect. And I remember when I first started, I talked to Sherry Burris about possibly doing a team one day, and she said you probably want to wait at least 2 years, make sure you have enough experience under your belt so that you can actually answer questions and get things done right. Now, I started my team, it was in 2018, and Christy Kyle was the first sucker with low enough standards to join up. And, I'm thankful to her every day because she's family to me. But I don't know that I planned very well, but I did know that I kind of like Patrick said, where you have to stay in your lane. I knew that there were certain things that I was good at and certain things that I was missing. And one of the things was I was missing follow-up, and I was missing deals because of that. So I think when I realized I couldn't do everything, I couldn't keep up with everyone, and that I was spending money needlessly when I could have saved a lot, that kind of helped me. But I don't know that, and like, the other thing I would say is also, I know that I cannot replicate myself. I can try my hardest to make everyone the exact same as me, but I have an incredibly diverse team with people that are from hugely different backgrounds, with English as a second language, or that had never been in real estate or whichever. And it's been cool for me to see all those different personalities and how it all works. And it has been very challenging for me to learn this, but I continue to learn on a daily basis that I can micromanage all I want, but it's not helpful. It is very impossible to make everyone do everything I want. So it's better to have some standards and be strong in holding to those, but know that I'm not on a team with a bunch of me's. It's like when somebody asked me once, like, what is different from you to everybody else? Or why should someone work with you over somebody else? And, the only reason somebody should is because I'm me. Because I'm not doing anything different than everyone else. We're all doing the same thing. It's just a different person. Patrick likely lists houses on MLS just like I list houses on MLS. We all do a lot of the same things. There's little variations in it, but overall, we're all doing something similar. The only thing that's different is us. So I had to learn to accept that I'm not going to replicate myself. And that was one thing that was really helpful to me. I don't know how to give you short answers. I'm sorry.
You're doing a great job. Patrick, you've had a team for, did you say 16 years?
Yeah, I think end of 2005, first of 2006, so for a while.
Well, that's incredible longevity. And you said you brought Courtney on before you brought any other team members on. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about what's important when you're planning for a team, or even the goals for the next year.
Well, I mean, to me, collaboration is a beautiful thing. I mean, just, a team is not a dictatorship, and you're pushing your ideas and the way you do it. This is the way we do it, and you can't do it your way. And because, you have to do everything my way. What happens is you miss, I mean, a football team doesn't work that way. They all work together to form one group, but they all have different jobs. Or a basketball team or any team of anything. Like Jonathan said, you don't want 5 Jonathans or 5 Patricks. You don't have a team. I mean, the beauty is having different people with different backgrounds doing different things. And then together you make the team. You don't make the team off, it would be a sad premier team with a lot of Patricks, you know what I mean? So, but if you bring the right people and let them grow and get excited, and then they can get, their word. I mean, you'll learn more from your staff and from the agents than you will teach them yourselves. You know what I mean? So if you want to go just have a team and just to boss people around, don't start a team, because that's not a team. And anything we do in life, it's not a family. If everybody has a word and everybody has a thought, and they'll come up with ideas. I'm like, wow, I wouldn't even thought about that. But if, it is not about throwing your weight around and telling people exactly how to do it. Like Jonathan said, you give them a structure, and but they still have to be themselves. In real estate, if everybody's trying not to be themselves, they'll never be successful. You want them to be everybody on the team, on the premier team, is different than the other person. You know what I mean? But they do still have to follow a structure, but they still can be themselves. So to us, when we started the team, teams were not even popular when we started a team. Remax was, when I say anti-team, 2 people on a team was a big team in Remax back in the day. So we went to a team conference. So this was back in the, probably 2008, 2009 or whatever. I can't remember the year. And we told them, they said, tell us about your team. And we told them, they're like, oh, y'all will definitely fail. That's, you cannot have mega teams. That, now they say a whole different story than they did back then. But, there's everybody who with a common goal, and everybody's helping getting there. But, that's what a team is. And, not, again, I know I said it a few times, but it's not just your way or the highway. It's you're collaborating, using their strengths, which is your weaknesses, to build a better engine for everybody. And if everybody has more, and I even about the splits, and I'll go to that, because a lot of people, why would people be on a team with a lower split than they can get at Remax? The reason why is not everybody can be a self-sustained agent. And I always tell people, would you rather have a lower split, or would you rather have a larger 1099? If you can do a lot more homes a year than by yourself, you're going to make more money, even though the split's less. So, and most agents that are on a team understand that. And they not just buy into the system, but we have people who've been on the team for 12, 13 years that are very successful. And they choose to be on the team, and they can go out and do it themselves. But there's something about the culture when you build a team, whatever your team is, that people want to stay. You're still going to have some turnover. But if the culture's right, and then they're still bringing their business in, but you're giving them business they wouldn't have, then they'll look at it at the end of the year and say, wow, if I wasn't on the team, I wouldn't have gotten these 10 closings, even though I made less off my personal business. So all you have with a team, you just have to add value. All you have to do all the time is, what kind of value can I add to the agents and staff? It's all about adding value.
That makes a lot of sense, Patrick. And Jonathan, I think you had your hand up. Did you want to add into that?
Yeah, I wanted to use that special feature, but you know, one of the things Patrick said was about learning from everybody, and it is like 100% true that we can learn a lot from other people, and that's why, yeah, the diversity on my team is really great. I have 2 people on my team that happen to both be from Afghanistan, just through the oddity of it. And I learned the other day that there is a lender in Raleigh that offers a Muslim loan. I didn't know there was a Muslim loan. And learning about these different programs or religious structures or things like that is definitely really cool, because it helps me to serve the people that I'm around better. So it's, you know, sort of like Patrick said, you know, we never know everything. We're always learning something from somebody else, and it's good to be open to that. So I appreciate that you said that, Patrick. It's really true. We have to kind of play that role sometimes of being the know-it-all, but I love learning. That's, you know, if I wasn't on this panel, I would have been on this call to hopefully learn and interrupt at some point.
I agree with you on the learning. I have a thirst for knowledge, and I always want to learn something new, and probably drives my family crazy, but I'm either listening to a podcast, listening to an Audible, or doing something in the background of everything to capture just a little bit more information every day. I'm not a huge TV fan, so if we're watching Ancient Aliens or American Pickers, I'm usually also listening to something else with one earbud in, so I can hear what's going on and have a conversation. But
well, listen, I love TV, but learning is fun. My wife actually asked me the other day what I wanted for Christmas, and I don't really have a lot of things I want. So I told her that I'd like her to get me some sort of training or something where I learn something. She told me no, but that's what I would genuinely like.
Very cool. Lizette, I know I've asked you a lot of different questions, and I want to this time just ask you, what do you want to tell us about just your process? You have a coach. I know you put together a plan every December. How structured are your plans today? I know you held up your one from 1996. Do you put it all on paper and do you track it through the years? I know that's not a question I told you I was going to ask you, but I see how detailed you were back in 1996. And you mentioned something about the white minivan and that goal. And I wanted you to share just a little bit more about how you get the goals down on paper and that process you go through with your coach, or what you've learned over the years doing them.
Unmute yourself.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. So I do get everything on paper, and that's helpful just to have it and to be able to look at it. And one of the things that's been really good for me is to, I'm not like a big picture person. I'm not like always looking into the distance. So for me, breaking down my yearly goals into 3-month goals and also into 10-day goals has been really helpful, because I just lose my like ambition if I'm like looking at this big like 1 year, you know, that like every January I swear I'm depressed because I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this again? Like all I see is a big fat 0 on, you know, on the page, and I'm like, okay, it's time to get started, and I just doubt my ability to do it all over again. And so what's really helped me is I read a book called The 12-Week Year, I think was the name of it. Have either of you read it, Jonathan or Patrick? No. So it was recommended through my mastermind group, and the 12-week year is just basically the idea that like you take bigger yearly goals and break them into quarters. And so all of my goals are in quarters. So everything that I want to accomplish is like quarterly. So when I get to like, the end of quarter 2 in a year, I know if I'm, on track or off track. And that goes for, financial goals, business goals, family goals. And so for me, I boil it down to like, so for instance, with my family goals, for me and Darren, we go away. We don't just want to, but we go away once a quarter, just as a couple, sometimes with friends, for a long weekend. That's in our goals. And I know that it's there. And then, one big vacation a year. And that's something that I'm tracking. And as far as transactions, the number of transactions that we want to do, I boil that down to how many do I want to do a year? Then how many is that per quarter? How many is that per month? How many is that per week? And so just that visualization and that breaking it down makes it more real to me. And so I'm always looking. My CRM helps me to track all of that activity. So I have been writing them down for years and looking at them. But, frankly, there are, a lot of goals that I go, well, I didn't hit that one this year. So I guess we'll put it on there again for next year and we'll see what happens. I don't know. I haven't figured it all out. I'm just not willing to give up trying. So
I love that answer. And it makes so much sense because breaking it down and putting it into smaller compartments makes it look so much better than looking at that huge goal or looking at, you're right, that 0 at the beginning of the year. And we all know we can get to where we want to go. And it's about planning and tracking. Patrick, I know you guys have goal setting workshops and you talk to your team and you have a process for putting together your goals. Tell us a little bit about what your actual goals look like this time of year, or what process you go through to get them down and share them with everyone.
Well, with the team, again, from our coaching, they have us a really good outline, that is, I guess, fun. It's got, there's probably about 10 pages and they have to fill out these, really think about it. And we meet with about 2 or 3 agents a week at the end of November, 1st of December we cannot set the team goals until we know their personal goals. And we're trying to get them to set a goal that's halfway attainable. But I mean, we've had agents say, yeah, I did 3 million this year and I'm going to do 19 million next year. You know what I mean? That's not really a goal. You know what I mean? They have visions of grandeur, which is great. So what we do is, collectively, we, including us, Jeff, Steve, and I, and we get all the numbers from the agents. And then in mid-December, we put all of it together and collectively, and then send that goal to our coach. And then that coach kind of comes back to us and says, okay, you want to sell 500 homes next year. How are you going to do it? Are you going, whatever the goal is. So, and it, it tells us again, a lot of, it's weird looking over it. Some people, especially new agents, what you almost think is, why are they thinking this? Because we have experience. But then that you sit down with new agents and they're like, they don't really know the lending part. They really don't know maybe what the conventional next to a, when they've heard of VA, they've heard of these words, but they don't know enough about them. So what the goal does is a lot of times too, it brings up a lot of questions and what their weaknesses and strengths and opportunities and threats are. So that's what we do is, and it's, again, it is any of this information, I don't mind sharing it, or that the 61 points, but it's just trying to get them thinking, which makes us think of what our goals are, but we have to have their goals before we do our goals, if that makes sense. So
That
we
makes
can't do
sense.
our goals. We cannot set our goals, or Jonathan or whoever. If you have a team, you can't set your goals without having your team's goals.
Right. And once you guys set your goals, Patrick, I know you have a team meeting. I think it's almost weekly, or it is weekly. Do you guys look at your goals weekly, or how often do you look at your goals once you've got them set?
Well, what we do so on Monday morning, we have a Monday morning huddle from 9 to 9:15. It's quick moving. We follow a strict agenda, and it's, maybe 6 or 7 people. It's just to wake up everybody and just to get them this Monday morning. And we try to make it fun. And then we have a Wednesday Zoom meeting with the agents once a month now, since, the restrictions have kind of eased a little bit. We have an in-person now once a month, or if not, we have a Zoom meeting from 9 to 11 or whatever, and then we're going over leads and doing all that kind of stuff. We don't internally, our coach holds us accountable because we have 2 calls a week with our coach. So he's the one who's saying, okay, your goals are this, your goals are that. He's the one who's holding us accountable to our goals, not us we're holding the agents accountable, but he holds us accountable. It helps when somebody's looking over you, like a parent or whatever. And, sometimes you if you make goals once a year and you close the book, you don't look at them again till the next December, then what good was it really to set the goals? So, but our coach holds us accountable for the goals we set.
Everyone has
Whatever. And they're
mentioned,
not all financial. You know what I mean? They're not all financial. It could be, a number of things, or, we built the team on core values. So every time, like on Monday, a different agent, we do The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. So this is a great book, just not about real estate, but it's not about sales, but we let an agent read a scroll and then interpret it before we start our meetings on Monday. And then we built the team on core values. So every Wednesday, even this morning, we have an agent that picks out one of the 10 core values and what it means to them. And the thing is, your interpretation and my interpretation are totally different. So you learn a lot from, instead of me going, let me read this to you and give you my interpretation. If you let somebody else do it, again, it's like learning from other people. They just interpret things, and they just really open your eyes to a lot of these things we do. Sounds a little hokey, but it really helps, and it's really good for a team.
that's great. And I think it would be great for individual agents as well, to really, for that motivation factor, and even working with other agents in the office. Oftentimes I'll notice agents collaborating out in our workroom, talking about different deals or what they're doing or books they've read. And so I oftentimes am thinking, should we have some type of book club or quote of the month club that we talk about or really focus on each month as the year goes on? Those of you guys that are on the call, would anyone want to be in a quote of the month club or a book club?
Sure.
I'm down.
That would be good.
So Jonathan, you're not getting out of that question.
Can you remind me what that was?
I'm just saying, we've asked a lot of questions. We've talked to you. When it comes down to it, what do your goals look like as you're rolling into the end of the year? Do you actually put them down on paper, and how do you look back at them? How often do you do that throughout the year?
So I plan on actually starting doing goals in year 13 of the team being put together. That's my path, honestly. No, so I don't think I talk enough about the goals. I kind of told the team a goal in the beginning of the year of what I think it would be great for us to do. And, hearing Patrick talk about it, I'm happy not everyone from my team is on here, because I'm going to walk away from this likely doing a lot of things that we talked about. But one of the things was finding out their goals and using that to help make your team goals. Because what I want may not mesh up with what everyone wants. If I want to hit 30 or 40 or however many $1 million in sales, what if my agents only want to do 2 or do 4? Then where is the rest of it coming from? So I think it's extremely smart to go ahead and ask the team what their goals are, so that you can help from there figure out how to structure your team goals for year. Because really the team goals are about the team. And like Karen Kitzmiller actually said it once to me when I called her. She said, she's not as focused on building the team as she is on building the agents. And I thought that was super cool. So that's been my mantra since I heard her say that. But obviously, I'm missing some of the practices that kind of put that together. Great use of that heart feature, Karen. So I don't do a lot of goal setting, honestly. I wanted to hit 25 million for my team this year. We did 16 last year, and we're close to that. But like your question earlier, what happens if you don't hit a goal? I set a new higher one, and I continue to try. But if I don't hit it, it's fine. It's life. I can only control what I'm doing. So at least if I'm doing what I know I should, if it doesn't happen, it just doesn't happen. I can't make people buy or sell.
You're true. Very true. You guys had some great answers to questions. I'm going to do one last question all the way around. It's one that I didn't ask you guys ahead of time. And for those of you who were on panels later in the sessions, I'm not the moderator for all of them, so they might not hear my question here. You guys are all extremely successful agents, teams, personally, business, and otherwise. What was the number one thing that you were grateful for, or a goal that you just feel really grateful that you achieved? It doesn't have to be in real estate, it doesn't have to be otherwise, but what are you most grateful for? And we're in that month of Thanksgiving and being grateful. What would you say you're most grateful for? And Lizette, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I will say that I had a little bit of an epiphany this year, thinking back to 2008, 9, 10, like the recession years really hit my family hard because for those of you who don't know, we had just moved to Charlotte in 2006, and Darren and I were both, self-employed agents trying to build a business from the ground up here in Charlotte. And it was just tough. And so, our income went down by like 50%. And we were, even though we had moved here from the Northeast and we were debt-free and all that, we realized that we were, going through savings and doing things to just survive. It was just, it was bad times. And one of the things that we did to survive then was we sold our big, beautiful house that we had paid cash for in Providence Plantation, and we bought a smaller house. And I was very miserable about that at the time. And I just thought, like, I'm not happy with my life right now. I don't like this. This just kind of sucks, really. And, but Darren and I put together a plan at the time where we're like, listen, we're figuring it out. And to his credit, not to mine, Darren is like excellent. When I say he's excellent, he finds mistakes on attorney CDs almost every single time. Like, he is that guy that, like, he just walks into a room and he sees things. Anyway, so to his credit, we put together a plan and we bought investment property. And so this year, what I'm thankful for is what seemed like a curse at the moment, like going through this hardship. We made some smart decisions, which was to like pick up really cheap little crappy rental properties in, bad parts of the city, like just because we thought, we don't have our big, beautiful house and we're going to do this for now. We'll do the, and, as with where the market has landed, those properties like quadrupled in value. And now we're set up better than had we just kept our big, lovely house and had that like the, anyway, so what I'm grateful for is that sometimes what feels hard and is not comfortable at the time can turn around and become a big blessing. So I'm counting my blessings that you know, like whatever you're going through right now, for anybody who's on this call, like better days are coming. And I'm just thankful to be on the other side and to see that. And it gives me confidence to know that whatever comes again, you know, who never knows what that will be, like it's going to be okay, you know. Anyway, so that's my
Thank
answer.
you for sharing. That's an incredible answer and something definitely to be grateful for. We're going to move over to Jonathan and then we're going to let Patrick wrap it up. So Jonathan.
Can you ask the question one more time so I can know exactly how you worded it?
Sure. Let's see. What I said was, tell us something that you're grateful for from a goal that you set for yourself or something that you set out that you accomplished. I mean, right now we're in the time of Thanksgiving and giving back and being grateful. It doesn't have to be this year, it could be any year, but what are you most grateful for? It doesn't have to be real estate, and a goal you set or something that you put out and that you've accomplished.
Okay, so I'm gonna do two things. So the first is last year in June, there was a 1 week period where the only agent, I had two agents at that time, where Christy Kyle passed me on production for the year. And my wife was like, why are you excited about this? Like, why shouldn't you should probably need to work harder. But I was so thrilled. Like, it was one of those really exciting things, kind of like I now know from talking to Karen Kitzmiller that building good agents and building a team like that is credit where credit's due, Karen. So building good agents is really important to me. And the fact that she passed me, it was only a week. I kicked her butt the rest of the year, but at least for that week, she passed me, and I was so excited to call her when I found out that was the case. And then the next thing I would say is, you know, the pandemic has been terrible health-wise and family-wise for a lot of people, but I think it is probably one of the best things to happen to the country and to my family, because it let a lot of people go home more and spend more time with their families. I created a lot of hardships, and obviously I won't say that there wasn't a whole lot of crap that came out of it, but when the pandemic started, I stopped taking leads, and I haven't taken them since. I let my team have every one of them, and I haven't gone back. And it has helped me to like completely reevaluate my business and what I do and my priorities. And that is one thing that I am, you know, it's awful experience to have it the way it is, but usually through the worst things can come the best things. So I think one of the best things about it was, you know, the pandemic happening, and it kind of forced me into the background on my team and really just developing the back end of it. And it let me be much more in the life that I'm building instead of on the outside just continuing to build it. The end.
A great answer. Thanks, Jonathan. And Patrick.
I'm just going to go with Lizette, and then just, you know, so we started the team, and I mean, if the people, some of these I know you were in the real estate, but you didn't get the pleasure to go between 2008 to 2011. You missed it. I mean, because once you now we complain that our phones are ringing too much. We have too many clients. We have too many leads. We have too many emails. That is a lot better problem than your phone not ringing at all. You know what I mean? And sometimes I complain as well. I'm like, this is crazy. My phone, you know, but then you think about the way it was and how, I mean, there were for sale signs on every building. There was, I mean, it was just a sad, even looking around and driving around. And, you know, we had the team, we were trying to keep the team, you know, alive as much as we could. We kept spending money just so we would be in position. So when the market turned around, but none of us ever thought it was going to be like 3 years. You know what I mean? And then you realize you don't learn anything. You learn in good times, but the only time you really learn is when times are rough. You know what I mean? Because you quit depending on yourself as much. And you, again, not trying to, don't know everybody's religious backgrounds, but you start trusting on other things other than yourself. you know, it's kind of like grace. You can't, if you're already full of yourself and you're great, my family's great, just, you know, there's no room for grace to enter your life. I mean, because this grace flows and it's like it goes into a cup or something, but if there's no room at the end or no room in the cup, because everything is wonderful, you miss the grace of what all this is about, not just, you know, religion, but friends and having acquaintances and clients and kids and opportunities. And I mean, there's hundreds of things, but if we don't get to, you know, we don't go through the hard time, we can't enjoy the good time, in essence. So no, I'm thankful for being with the firm. I'm thankful for everybody being here, and you know, and I love working with every one of you guys when I get a chance. But we all, you know, and everybody's going to have their trials and tribulations, but grow with them. I mean, if you have a bad year, so be it. Just look forward. You know, what they say is, you know, look forward. If you know, our life is like a car. You're looking through the windshield and you're seeing life. And if you keep looking at the rear view mirror, you're going to crash. You know what I mean? Look at the rear view mirror every once in a while to learn from your mistakes. But if you don't keep your eyes on the future and now, then you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. And it doesn't matter about real estate. You'll miss it no matter what. So, but yeah, I'm very grateful. I think maybe even getting older, maybe if there is a plus to that, you know, I think the gratefulness is one of them, because you look around and you're like, you know, I've been a blessed guy, and you know, and I don't know, I don't mean to be deep, but I think we all are here, but we're doing this right now. How blessed are we all on this call doing this? So happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Woo! You're so right, Patrick. You wrapped it up well. Everybody, I think, was that last question, you brought it home. Jonathan, you made it real, and Patrick, you really just brought it as well. You guys all had great things to share, and I appreciate it. As we all are thinking about goal setting for 2022, we just wanted to get some minds going about what's happening out there, how others goal set, because we all glean stuff from each other. I've talked to several agents recently, and we've said, you know what, we don't want to create the wheel, we just want to make it better. We want to make it our own. And so stealing ideas from one another, or I should say sharing ideas, is important. And if you're failing forward, that's learning, that's growing. I mean, if you're not falling forward, you're not growing and developing yourself. And I want to ask anyone if they have any questions, but one of the quotes that was sent over that I also wanted to share before we end was, "Everything starts with desire," by Napoleon Hill. And that is so true. Whether it's good or bad or indifferent, it starts with desire. And it's you desiring to be your best self in 2022 and finish up 2021 the best you possibly can. It's been a phenomenal year. It's been a year I think none of us expected. I mean, who would have thought a pandemic would bring us to where we are today, with our phones ringing off the hook, like Patrick said, versus driving someone around and showing them 90 houses because 90 houses were on the market at the time before they picked the right house. Yeah. And think about the number of offers we write today versus the number of houses we showed back then. Any questions or any comments from those who joined us today?
I have one comment that I just want to add to that, Tiffany. I just had to laugh because as I was pulling out my old goals, I read through some of the things that I was writing down as activities, weekly activities. And one of them was call each and every one of your listings and get a 90-day extension.
So Tiffany, you talked about, now there's not a lot of homes to show. It's made life so much better. So John Woodville was telling me yesterday about the same thing you're talking about. He had somebody back in the day, he showed them 150 homes, one time. So now there's not, so they have to make a decision. You know what I mean? So it is a beautiful thing that they have, they can't just sit on it for 3 weeks and make a decision and lowball and do all this. No, the market, it couldn't be, it's tight, but it's so much better than a buyer's market with hundreds and hundreds or thousands of homes sitting. So Karen knows, she was there, And
I love how Karen Kitzmiller is giving kudos to Jeff on Jonathan's team for the deals and that camaraderie and the culture we have here at Remax Executives. Does anyone else want to add anything for the good of the cause before we let you guys head out for the day and think about your goals and what you probably have planned for dinner at this point?
I have 18 people coming for dinner tonight.
Nice. I have that just with kids.
Oh, great. Here's the book that I mentioned, by the way. 12-Week Year by Brian Moran. Really highly recommend it. Such a good read of when it comes to goal setting. It's a game changer.
Awesome.
Perfect. I just wrote that down. Well,
I got one quote that I always liked, if I can say it. So people are always like, about motivation, because motivation comes and goes. You know what I mean? I'm not motivated every day. Or whatever. Maybe I fake it a little bit, but Zig Ziglar said, people often say motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it every day,
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You just got to do it and strap it on and go for it and stuff. It's not like you're just, everybody who's successful just wakes up every day motivated. You got to get in the right frame to be motivated. So I always thought that was a kind of a little funny, but a good little quote,
I love Zig.
Mhm.
a lot of great quotes out of him and Jim Rohn.
Mhm.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Special thank you to Jonathan Dean and Patrick Mooney and Lizette Conover. We really appreciate your time today and look forward to seeing you on other agent panels and other events we have coming up and in person, hopefully.
Thank
Have a great
you.
one.
Thanks,
I appreciate
everybody.
your time
Bye.
today.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Haley.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate
you,
the
Haley.
constant active
Okay.
listening.